Spring 2017. Bookstores roll out David Grann's Killers of the Flower Moon. Its subtitle, The Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI, hinting at a darker chapter in American history. In the early 1920s, the Osage people in Oklahoma went from barely scraping by to sudden oil wealth. That fortune drew in swindlers and opportunists, and soon enough, tribe members started turning up dead. The investigations eventually fell to a newly formed federal agency run by J. Edgar Hoover. This agency would become the FBI. This quiet massacre barely shows up in history books, but it caught Martin Scorsese's eye right after he wrapped Silence. His fascination spurred Paramount Pictures to vie for the film rights. The project had "Hit" written all over it, a widely read book, plus the powerhouse duo of Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's my weakness.
As soon as DiCaprio finished reading, he signed on. Initially, word was he'd play Tom White, the FBI investigator.
We kind of threw that out. We felt that that didn't get to the heart of the story of the Osage, frankly. It was an investigation story. It was a whodunit, and he kind of wasn't interested in doing that. And there was this small little section with Ernest and Molly, and we had the read-through, and we were like, oh my God, this is the emotion of the story. This gets us into the household, and here's this very twisted, bizarre, sadistic relationship between this white man and this Osage woman, and this kind of encompasses the story much better.
For Scorsese, the grim heart of it all lay in how evil can sprout within a close-knit family. What unfolds isn't just a genocide, but a slow, methodical betrayal of trust. White settlers married Osage women to gain legal rights to oil, then erased anyone standing in the way. Scorsese and screenwriter Eric Roth grasped that the true horror came not from over-the-top gangster theatrics, but from everyday folks willing to commit atrocities against their own.
You realize that this indicates to me that you're planning on adopting and killing these children.
No, not if it's not legal and I don't get the money. Then I'm not gonna do it.
Meanwhile, the budget was escalating. A 1920s-era production, actual Oklahoma locations, a star-studded cast, practical effects, the painstaking recreation of Osage life, it all pushed the cost towards $200 million. Paramount officially moved forward, but had doubts it would ever recoup that investment. Then, the pandemic arrived, threatening further delays and expenses. The project nearly collapsed until new backers stepped in. Apple Original Films took on the lion's share, Paramount kept theatrical distribution, and Apple secured the streaming rights. Suddenly, Killers of the Flower Moon was a flagship title for Apple's growing platform.
So,
Casting the ensemble also took a while. Leonardo DiCaprio stepped in as Ernest Burkhart, a tense mix of charm and cruelty, perfectly capturing the tragedy's core.
He's not a hero by any stretch of the imagination, but by the sheer actions of how easily he was manipulated by Hale, I started to think of him almost like a Lenny of Mice and Men type of character. I'm like, how slow could this guy possibly be?
how do you mean?
But I realized that there's obviously something incredibly conscious about what he was doing. He was playing both sides of the fence, and he was doing one of the most horrific things I could ever imagine a character doing to the person that he allegedly loved. They had this this bizarre dynamic which was unlike anything I'd ever seen in cinema history.
I love this girl, Molly. Uncle, I really do think she's a lady.
For William King Hale, Ernest's uncle and the family patriarch, Scorsese had only Robert De Niro in mind.
I understand I'm wanted. Well, I'm here to turn myself in.
What you supposed to have done?
Kill somebody, if you can believe it.
At last, Marty found the ideal project to unite the two icons of his filmography outside of that casino commercial.
Yeah, that's so.
Yeah.
De Niro dove into researching local political bosses and shady businessmen who ran corruption rackets in Oklahoma's backcountry. He decided on a gentle, almost soothing drawl that clashed starkly with his piercing gaze, his character's one open window to a mind more crooked than Ernest's teeth. In the early script, the lead role belonged to FBI agent Tom White, who doggedly unravels the Osage Murders despite local authorities' attempts to shield the criminals. Once DiCaprio pivoted to Ernest, Scorsese offered that agent part to Jesse Plemons.
I want to talk to you about the murders of Rita and Bill Smith and Anna Brown.
Renowned for playing both hapless stooges and chilling psychopaths, and beloved by critics, Plemons had yet to fully crack the A-list. Landing a heroic role for Scorsese marked a big step up.
Oh, I was sent down from Washington, D.C. to see about these murders.
See, what about him?
See who's doing it.
Scott Shepard joined as Ernest's brother, confirming Marty's ongoing fondness for the Breaking Bad universe. Both Shepard and Plemons kicked off major parts of their careers there.
Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Hey.
Brendan Fraser and John Lithgow also jumped aboard, boasting the film's star power.
I demand the opportunity to speak with Mr. This man cannot represent both the defendant and the witness.
Interestingly, Killers of the Flower Moon came just before Fraser's celebrated return in The Whale, ending a long drought of major roles and signaling a new upward swing in his career.
You realize that this can be held against you for the rest of your life.
But rising above the rest was Lily Gladstone.
Gotta be careful. A lot of characters around here today.
Known mainly for her theater and indie work, she was already a critic's favorite, though hardly a household name.
It's a big responsibility and it's terrifying. It's hard being a native actor, having this much that you can audition for. Yeah, Marty showed me what's possible.
Scorsese sought a Native American actress and found in Gladstone someone who could convey a quiet grace, inner strength, and deep emotional resonance.
Well, it's powerful. So we need to be quiet for a while.
Gladstone recalled how her heart clicked when she read the script. Molly is a woman watching her family die, in large part due to the man she loves. Gladstone became the audience's lens on the Osage heartbreak.
Mr. President, Molly Burkhart, please send help. There's murder in Osage, and the police do nothing.
Because the central goal was to show Osage life from within, everyone agreed on hiring many actors and extras with direct indigenous heritage.
We have so many deaths we've lost count. We have hundreds down.
A few took on significant roles, sharing their language skills and cultural insight with the well-known white stars who might not grasp certain nuances.
I mean, you did an incredible job, and you also did an incredible job of doing it the way a white man would say it.
That's my job.
Rodrigo Prieto returned as cinematographer. Scorsese challenged him to craft a fresh visual palette.
We were using photography as a basis of representing the different groups. For example, the white settlers were photographed with an emulation of autochrome, which is one of the first color techniques that was invented by the Lumiere brothers. So that was an import from Europe. So that's why it felt appropriate to use that for the Ernest and their family, because they're imported from Europe. And the Osage we photographed as naturalistic as possible in terms of color. The scenes where they're alone and their rituals and that sort of thing.
Prieto favored a soft, natural light, something he learned was vital to the Osage after discussing their sun-centered rituals.
Even for the building of their towns and villages, the orientation has to do with the travel of the sun.
They call the sun grandfather, the moon mother.
He and the crew often improvised on set, thanks to Oklahoma's fickle spring weather. One minute it was bright midday sun, the next a torrent of rain. Adapting each day to shifting light gave the film that natural atmosphere Prieto was so eager to capture. Costume prep also demanded precision. The contrast between the newly affluent Osage in lavish European attire and the humbler wardrobes of nearby townsfolk was key. Four-time Oscar nominee Jacqueline West oversaw the film's look, fitting killers in between her work on Dune Parts 1 and 2. For authenticity, she brought on cultural consultant Julie O'Keefe.
My name is Julie O'Keefe. I'm Osage, and I was the lead Osage wardrobe consultant on Killers of the Flower Moon.
A textiles expert who owned a shop for traditional Osage clothing and served on the council of the National Museum of the American Indian at the Smithsonian. She opened access to archival tribal photos and secured genuine fabrics.
I look at these pieces as part of my life. because these are incorporated and ingrained into Osage life.
In the end, costumes practically became another character, revealing social divisions, a rapidly shifting era, and the unique culture at the heart of the story.
In learning about how a blanket is worn and what the designs of a blanket mean, we learn who the people are.
Legendary production designer Jack Fisk, known for his collaborations with Terrence Malick and Paul Thomas Anderson, handled the film's overall design and set construction. His work on Anderson's There Will Be Blood likely caught Scorsese's eye. Scorsese, Fisk, and the producers scoured Oklahoma in search of the towns and landscapes where the tragedy took place. Striving for accuracy, they shot in authentic streets and interiors still bearing traces of that 100-year-old oil rush. Pawhuska, Fairfax, Ralston, and nearby areas welcomed the crew, their well-worn streets acting like a time capsule of old homes and cafes from another era. Locals joined in as extras and offered land for temporary sets. Some streets got a full makeover. Modern signs replaced with vintage ads, storefronts stocked with period items, and a fresh layer of dust to evoke the rural scene of a century ago. Filming had been slated for early 2020, but got pushed to spring 2021 by COVID. Safety restrictions forced scenes of large Osage gatherings and ceremonies to be shot in smaller groups, with crowds later expanded through visual effects or multiple combined takes. In the quest for realism, the team often rented not just the main filming sites, but the surrounding areas as well, ensuring pristine audio untouched by traffic, tractors, or airplanes. For domestic moments, Scorsese shot without fixed marks, aiming for a sense of eavesdropping and letting actors move freely. Many of these scenes took place in actual houses, with limited space for lighting rigs, so Prato tucked extra lights behind furniture and within real lamps. This level of authenticity exacted a high price. COVID protocols, daily testing, strict isolation from the outside world, and Scorsese's perfectionism. He might spend 12 hours on a single dialogue scene, searching for the perfect rhythm among his actors.
That's what happens. Yeah.
When shooting large crowd scenes, the crew raced daylight and braced for gusts that could scatter their setups. Still, it was all in service of the realism. Once filming had wrapped, Thelma Schoonmaker stepped in to shape the raw footage. Her first cut ran well over 4 hours, typical for a major Scorsese production. Still, she managed to pare things down without losing the story's slow-building menace. They settled on a runtime of just over 3 hours, and neither Paramount nor Apple pushed for further trims. As Scorsese explained, the key isn't just revealing who killed the Osage and why. It's making people feel how murder grows from close relationships. That only works if you give each scene room to breathe, so that by the end, you feel the pain. It's not just another crime story, it's the poisoning of an entire people's soul.
You see, we don't want to just end it and say, okay, everybody's in jail. No. Yeah, they went to jail, yes. It doesn't matter. It's an ongoing problem.
A key creative choice involved weaving Osage songs into the soundtrack. Sometimes it's a brief prayer motif. Other times, it's extended traditional vocals echoing in the background. Scorsese insisted this should never come off like a flashy, exotic flourish. The Osage music had to sound like the very voice of the land, something the characters might not notice, but the viewer does. In July of 2023, just before the movie's release, Robbie Robertson passed away, adding an emotional note to the final sound mix. All that remained was to integrate his music into pivotal scenes, which left Killers of the Flower Moon as a final contribution from a legend. When Killers of the Flower Moon hit theaters, critics pegged it as a major awards contender. Sure enough, in January of 2024, the Academy announced its nominations. The film showed up in 10 categories, including Best Director for Scorsese and acting nods for Lily Gladstone, and Robert De Niro, along with recognition for the screenplay and Robertson's score. But on the night of the 96th Oscars, Oppenheimer and Poor Things swept through the ceremony. With Emma Stone taking the trophy, many had believed Lily Gladstone had all but locked in. In the end, this film, so akin in spirit to Gangs of New York, echoed that earlier picture's fate at the biggest awards show.
All that horse shit!
Despite the outcome, the theatrical run performed decently. A total of $200 million at the box office probably didn't cover its massive budget, yet this was a 3-hour dramatic thriller in the post-pandemic market, where streaming remained the real profit engine.
Well, I just love money. It's true.
For Apple, it was a decisive move towards bankrolling large-scale projects with an extended theatrical rollout. And for many viewers, it spotlighted one of the most harrowing chapters in US history. An ordeal that hits with a force you can't easily shake off. Hey, do you like our work? Let us know with your like and comment. Push that subscribe button and share with your friends. If you want to support the project financially, become our sponsor on Patreon or YouTube sponsorship. Thank you.